back to the Her Hoop Stats podcast. I am Christy Winter-Scott, joined by my girl on another continent right now, Jamie Shire Johnson. Welcome back, my dear. How are you?
Yeah, it's really good to be back with you. It's good to be, back talking WNBA. It's
Yeah.
crazy how far down the line we're getting. Like where
Uh,
we're sitting here talking about the end of the regular season. Like how did that happen?
Bananas. Bananas. It's like, as soon as the All-Star weekend was over, it was like boom, straight to the end of the season, like in a blink. So, but here we are. We didn't know what we would see right now, right? With the 8 teams that have qualified for the playoffs, it was definitely a gauntlet. It was definitely, everyone open up the staples and straight to the finish line situation between LA and Seattle, with Seattle getting in there. But there are a couple of games tonight, and we can dissect those a little bit because a lot of seasons will be ending. The Washington Mystics ended the other night,
Mhm.
but there are a couple other teams that are going to be competing tonight who will also complete their season. So, where do you want to start with the matchups tonight?
Let's start with kind of the first team out, and the Sparks, because gosh, they made such a push at the end and it got, this close
Second,
to basically playing
yeah,
for a spot tonight. And
yeah,
man, I just have been so impressed with the way that they've continued to come on strong late and just keep fighting. Like I've loved watching the Sparks this year.
yeah, same. And I think it was their offense that was so diabolical in terms of how they
Mhm.
were able to dissect every single defense that they saw. And I think they were number one in offensive efficiency. If not, they were very near the top just
Mhm.
because of how well they spread opponents out and attacked in a myriad of ways. And I know they led the league in paint points, right?
Mhm.
Because of how well they spread the court. And Dearica Hamby, I know when they came into DC at that point, it was like a week or so ago, she was leading the league in paint points with 13 paint points a game. So you're talking about point of attack as a team. But then you're talking about Dearica Hamby, who I thought had a spectacular season. And with Kelsey Plum there, it was just like this dynamite all over the court, in terms of how much energy they brought to their respective positions.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to think of much better veteran players that you could have to sort of be running things from the perimeter and then from the interior than Dearica Hamby and Kelsey Plum.
Sure.
I keep going back to Kelsey's interview kind of
Mhm.
midway through the season where she talked about some of the reasons why she decided to leave Vegas, that she wanted to take on more of that leadership role, and then
Yeah,
acknowledged
right.
how difficult that is and how much of an adjustment it has been. And at the time, I thought that was so refreshing. I thought that it showed in their play as the season went on that she was looking for ways to get everyone involved. Where, first of all, you have to know you're probably not going to average 30 something points over the course of a season like we
20.
saw when she started.
Right.
But
Started. Yeah.
you can do that on any given night and spread the wealth, and
Yeah.
she really got everyone so invested. And to get more of their players prepared down the stretch, to get everyone really into things when Ray Burrell came back, that was huge. And then to get Cameron Brink playing for nearly the latter half,
Yeah.
I just thought that was so exciting and definitely improved the defense. That's going to be their big offseason thing that they're working on, but there's potential. Like we saw flashes of it for sure.
Yeah. And when they were whole, I mean, that's the thing, right? When they had their complete healthy roster, that's a dangerous roster when you're looking at now the defensive side of things. We're talking about how their offense was able to operate, but now their defensive prowess is going to be shored up. Hopefully, again, they stay healthy going into next season because, oh my goodness, you're talking about one game, right? If you can go back to the beginning when they didn't have Ray Burrell, or Cam Brink at that juncture, with everyone back, they were really starting to click and have that great synergy on the defensive side. And also, Latricia Trammell was hired
Mhm.
mid-season to bolster also the defensive strategies. And I think that's also going to be something that will continue to marinate now until next season. But wow, health, defense, and an already dynamic offense and veteran leaders who have won titles. That's pretty scary season right there for the LA Sparks for sure. And I know there are other teams tonight who will be competing in their final regular season game without qualifying for the playoffs. Who do you want to go with next?
Oh, let's go. I'll just move kind of up the line and we'll go Wings. The Dallas Wings
Okay.
facing the Phoenix Mercury, which is always interesting to see at this point who Dallas is rolling out on any given night
Okay.
because you talk about injuries. Obviously, there's been multiple teams decimated, and no one more than the Wings. And I
Yeah.
tell you what, there's it's not positive to have people get injured, but when you're able to find especially some of these young players that
Right.
are consistently contributing and
Uh,
are fitting into what you're looking to do,
right.
that's definitely a plus, especially going into a season where anyone who's not on a rookie scale contract is going to be a free agent. And so you're really widening your pool of who you may be able to bring in for next year.
Right. And that's true, and with the expansion teams, right? It could be kind of like a mini tryout for a lot of
Mhm.
these players who are, or have been picked up on consecutive 7-day contracts in the WNBA. So then now, if you can't stick where you were picked up, maybe there's an opportunity for you on the teams that are coming into the league next year. So I think it pays off for them in a lot of different ways. But I mean, we've seen that in Indiana as well, being
Mhm.
decimated with those injuries, and they have 5 players with season-ending injuries, and Bonner leaves, so really 6 players who could start on any team in the league, and for them to be still in the mix of the playoffs. I mean, kudos to Steph White. Shout out to her for her and her staff to be able to operate even under that incredible duress of adversity with those injuries. But with Dallas, I mean, it's the same deal. I remember one time, just a couple weeks ago, when they got hit really hard, and I saw a list of names, and I was like, "Wow, what is that? That's the whole roster, right? So who's actually hurt, right?" Because it just seemed
Right.
there's like 8 of them. I was like, "Wait, how do they have 8 players on the injured list?"
Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, I don't see an asterisk by any of them. Like, who's actually hurt? And no, they're like, no, all of them. I was like, oh my goodness, man, what do you do with that? But that's tough, right? And you can't plan for that. Like, things just randomly happen. But like you said, you can give opportunity to these younger players who are waiting in the weeds, if you will, for opportunities to show and prove that they belong in
Mhm.
the league. And with Dallas, Paige Becker's, an amazing season for her, obviously, even though she missed, 13 games, I believe, at the beginning, or altogether 13 games this year because of injury. But
Mhm.
she's been able to operate magnificently. What have you seen from Paige Becker's this season that has really struck a fire to what you like in players, especially rookies?
Oh, I mean, Paige does a little bit of everything. And I mean, I was able to see her as a college player, and that was something that we heard so consistently from Gino Oriema, was talking about getting her to do what she's capable of, not because she's, holding back, but because of the kind of player she is. She's very much a team player, a distributor, a get everyone involved, almost to a fault. And so, as we saw her adjust pretty quickly to the speed of the WNBA, the physicality, the style of play, new
Right.
teammates, like all of that, I felt like came along pretty quickly for her. And
Mhm.
then it was just figuring out on any given night what her role was going to be and understanding that more often than not, being pretty much the centerpiece
Yeah.
was going to be that role. And so I think that she kind of embraced that out of necessity, and showed just how capable she is, slicing through basically any defense that was put in front of her. It was frankly absurd. And then just to see her continue to bring in these different players that are playing alongside of her and get them involved immediately. Like, obviously, that's also coming from the coaching side of trying to fit people into the right scheme. But when she's the one who has the ball in her hands so often, she's the one that's figuring out, okay, this is again where my teammates want the ball. This is the situation in which they're going to be successful. And I felt like
Right.
her decision making stayed really, really solid. And especially when you put into perspective, like, I actually just saw this morning, my friend Melissa Truebwasser, so she covers the Wings, and she has this thread contextualizing all the injuries. 34 out of 44 games this season played with 10 or fewer available players.
Come on.
Like, that's crazy. 9 different players missed 8 or more games. No one appeared in every game. Set a league record with 21 players seeing time this year, used 18 starting lineups to match a WNBA record. And with all of that, they can surpass last season's win total.
Oh my
There's
god.
4 more games, but
Oh my god.
they have found some things that work. And
Right.
they haven't found the answer, because the answer would at the start be not having that many injuries and being able to build a team from the start,
Yeah.
but to continue to improve over the course of the season. And when you have these, I mean, I am super, super high on Luisa Gazasuder.
Yeah.
I think that she has just crazy potential.
Yeah.
And she's been out for a while now too. So I just think that who they have coming back and who they can really get folded in before next season that maybe they found as the year goes on,
Yeah.
I just think that they have a lot to be very, very optimistic about very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, only 10 games with like less than 10 healthy players.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And 18 different starting lineups. I mean, you have to be so creative, not only for games, but for practices to prepare for the games. You know, I coached for a long time. Your mom coaches, right,
Yeah.
at Iowa State for the women's basketball program. You have to play, like, you don't just show up like, oh, we have, like, it's not AAU, and not begrudging AAU. It's a great grassroots opportunity in a lot of different ways, but some issues with it, obviously. But you don't just show up, right? Like, I know a lot of times, like, you go to AAU tournaments and whatever, and you don't know teams, specifically, and you're kind of making
Mhm.
adjustments on the fly. That's just the nature of it. There's so many games and everything like that. With the WNBA, I mean, you have back to backs, you have games every couple days, but then you have practices in between that where you need to stabilize your philosophy and
Mhm.
your culture and all the things, right? Um, and not even speaking tactically, right? We're talking about, hey, who do we have today,
Mhm.
right? Who can go? That's the toughest part, I'm sure, for the coaching staff for the Dallas Wings, was to be able
Mhm.
to not only prepare for the games, but to get yourself prepared to play in the games and know how many healthy bodies you had in the stable for you. And that's just tough. And I know that's been a challenge, but they'll get right. And I think
Mhm.
that's going to be obviously something to watch for. But just one more thing with Dallas, what do you want to see next from Paige? Obviously, having healthy teammates around her, staying healthy herself.
Mhm.
But now we'll talk some tactics, right? What do you want to see next for Paige Beckers in her second season in the league?
Oh man. I mean, I think it's just kind of more of what we've started to see this year. And again, a lot of it does come down to having a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more versatility around her. I think that one of my favorite things for point guards and for ball dominant guards is when you have like the height and the strength to play inside and outside. I think that she really has that ability to not just slash to the rim, but she can post up
Right.
if you have a smaller guard on her, because she does have a good bit of height and length and great touch around the rim. So
Right.
I would love to see more opportunities for her to really showcase the entirety of her skill set and really exploit more of those mismatches that she hasn't been able to do this season, mostly because defenses have been so keyed in on her that if she's going into the paint, they're
Yeah.
just going to send a second or third defender, and
Yeah.
that's been a pretty tough thing to get through, right? And she still has scored through it frequently, but I think that if you get a little bit more balance around her, we can see more of that isolation, more of that one-on-one, both on the perimeter and on the inside. And at that point, it's very much like a what do you do?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, she's 6'1", she's crafty, she has those lanky arms, but it's her wisdom and her quickness of awareness of how
Mhm,
and where to make plays, not only for the team but for herself as well. But it's just her basketball acumen that's off the charts. And she is ball dominant. And maybe they could, I know with Arike Ogunbowale, it was, I don't know if that ever kind of materialized off the ball, on the ball, with Enrique needing shots. I love to watch Enrique Gumboa get her shots. I mean, the space that she creates, she and Plum to me, and Sabrina, those three to me create the most individual space
mhm,
between their defenders, right? To get their shots off. I was looking for that chemistry to kind of meld a little bit better. I don't know. And not begrudging either one of them. And sometimes it takes time to get that
mhm,
synergy with players. But I want to see that kind of blossom into something that's a great one-two punch on the offensive
mhm,
side. However, you can get to that, right? Whether it's to add more offense, like you said, around both of them, right, to
mhm,
relieve that pressure, so they're not walled up when they put the ball on the deck as much. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. But I love both of them. I
mhm,
love their skill sets, their ability to score the ball. Right, it's a thing of
mhm.
beauty. So for me, I want to see that develop a little bit more for Dallas. So who do you have next? Who do you have next?
Well, our last team playing tonight that has not yet finished their season and will is the Chicago Sky playing against the Liberty, and that's
Not
that
really.
that's
Okay.
a tough one to discuss right now for a lot of reasons.
Ooh.
There's just
Where do we
there's
go? Where do you want to go?
there's there's so much going on there.
I,
It's
you know, I don't know where to start either, and I am thinking of where to pinpoint and what my point of attack is in the conversation. Uh, I will say that there is a tremendous upside for the team. Obviously, with the skyscrapers on the interior there, with Cardozo and Reese, and to build out around that. But you've been around team culture, your mom's coach,
Mhm,
coach over here too. And, you know, there are some things that you just leave in the locker room. And I know I've said this on another podcast too, on here on the Her Hoop Stats podcast, that, that there's a sacred space in the locker room with your team,
mhm,
right? And being in the media, right? There's going to be questions that are asked to get you stuck and to set you up, and not begrudging whatever happened there. Things happen. You have to be aware of how everyone will be impacted in the locker room by what you say outside of the locker room. And I mean that with love, right? There's
mhm,
tough love to this conversation that we're having. I just think that you just have to be aware,
mhm,
right? Especially in the social media realm of things, that whatever you say is going to be taken and it's gone, like it's
mhm,
running, right? However you intended it, it's going to be taken in the way in which it was interpreted by the writers or the media. And I'm a part of the media, so I
mhm,
understand it. It's not something that I would do. If you say it, that's on you. But if you're setting people up to say things that will be detrimental to the team culture, that has to be examined as well,
mhm,
because you don't want to have that label as a media member, right?
Mhm.
But also, you don't want to have that label as a team member to be the one who is throwing you proverbially right in front of a bus. Like,
Mhm.
you cannot do that either. So there was an apology. Angel Reese said, that she didn't intend for it to come out that way, but then subsequently there was a half game suspension, which she did not play the second half of. And then there was a game where they said that she was going to be expected to play. But again, the back injury, which did bother her earlier in the season. So, okay, and now we're coming down to the end of the regular season, not making the playoffs. What's your take on how that went down, number one?
Mhm.
And then tactically speaking, what can Chicago look forward to for next season?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that obviously just as someone, as you said, like who's been around the coaching, around the locker room side of things, but also is in the media and someone who's teaching
Right.
journalists right now. Like this is something that obviously I've looked at, I've thought about a lot, and it's so it's so complicated, and especially
Right.
it's a continuously developing situation. Like we've had further reporting that comes out that right before that interview, Angel had sat down with the ownership and the front office and had a meeting where some not great updates I think were shared about what the future of their program looked like, about some of the hurdles they were having in some of the promised facilities and things like that. And so I do believe when she says that that's not how she intended it. I think that it makes a lot of sense that it was kind of misplaced frustration that
Okay.
seemed like it came across as against the teammates, which I mean, I think that we've seen ample evidence this year that Angel supports her teammates, that she has been, on the floor. We don't see what happens in the locker room,
Yeah.
but she's the one who was carrying Beck Allen off the floor after like
Yes.
I do put a lot of stock in those kind of interactions. And
Yes.
then I
Yes.
just keep going back to the fact that early in the season you had the Sky president calling out Angel by name as someone they needed more from. And that I cannot remember any
Yeah.
president of a team ever doing that to anyone else. And so I think that there's probably just top-down media training needed in that organization, because this didn't just start last week.
No.
This started at the beginning of the season. This started prior. It's frankly, it's just a mess as far as all of that goes. And that doesn't go down to any one person. That's a systemic thing.
Right.
Going forward, I do wonder what that relationship looks like and what the future looks like there. I think that I mean, they've been eliminated from the playoffs for a little bit. They obviously have faced their own set of injuries, but I do think that it would be naive to
Right.
say that there is no chance that there's a correlation between this situation and Angel sitting the games out. I think that there's certainly a possibility that at that point you say, my back has been bothering me. I've been working through it. And if this is the way we're going to handle things, why would I continue to throw myself out there? Again, this is speculation,
Okay.
but it wouldn't be shocking, and I don't think it would be invalid. And so I
Right.
do think there is a very, very real possibility that we see Angel Reese on the trade market this summer. And if that's the case, you're going to have some extremely interested teams
Yeah.
out there. And
Right.
so, as we already know, this is going to be a crazy summer for free agency.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have everyone out there. And if you're also talking about one of the few players that's under contract potentially being shopped around,
Right.
everything's up in the air. Like everything's on the table. So
Yeah.
I certainly Chicago will look very different next season.
Hmm.
just out of necessity, as will basically every team.
Right.
But I I do just think that at a certain point, a fresh start is good for everyone involved. And I think that she very well could stay there and have tremendous success.
Mhm.
But at a certain point, you just look at it and say, mm, is it worth it at this point in your organization where you really have to kind of get things figured out because you've been floundering? Maybe this is just the best, the easiest way forward.
Yeah, and putting that in context with that meeting prior to the interview happening, that kind of changes things for me in terms of, where her mindset
Hmm.
was when being asked those questions.
Yeah.
But and still, that's what you should be kind of more in tune to.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta, you know, and I can feel the way I want to feel. I'm not telling her not, hey, feel what you feel.
Hmm.
Trust and believe me, right? But when it starts to impact how the team feels,
It's
right?
the phrasing and it's the in season
That
portion of it. And again,
that's
it's so understandable. Like
that,
you're still so young and
yeah,
it happens. Like
boom, boom, yeah.
that's not going to color my opinion of her. I think how
No,
most people see her for the rest of her career, but it
no,
is a learning moment. And I think she has very much acknowledged that.
yeah, and I think also for the media too, like, you know what I mean? It's like understanding you're talking to, and I think you go back to what Ariel Atkins said. This is a kid, right?
Mhm.
When she sat in that presser in post game and said, "Listen, like she's trying her best, like she's doing her best. It doesn't mean she's not going to make mistakes." And I'm talking about early in the season when this
Mhm.
interview happened, and so whatever happened in the game, and the question that came to her was a tough question
Mhm.
even for a 10 plus year pro, right? And she's in her second season. So I think there's a lot of grace that has been extended by her teammates
Mhm.
because they see it also, right? And I think the questions that come to her sometimes are a bit different than they are to anyone else. And it makes it tougher. It's already tough, right? But then I think it gets doubled down sometimes. But then to see Ariel Atkins stand in the gap for her and say, "This is a kid. Like
Mhm.
she's 23 years old. Like let's go ahead and make this right."
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean to coddle, that doesn't mean to not ask the hard-hitting questions, but
Mhm.
let's just have some understanding of who we're talking to and why we're asking the questions that we're asking. Like,
Mhm.
are you that curious or are you trying to get clicks? So you got
Mhm.
to be careful with that on the media side of things. And having kids, I know like things happen. I understand that, but you've got to have grace on both sides of things. So
Mhm.
that's just how I see that. But Ariel Atkins standing in the gap. I mean, I think that's kind of the one shining moment that kind of mirrors what happened towards the end of the regular season for the Sky. And one team that has already been eliminated. Is the Washington Mystics just a couple days ago. We can just quickly go through
Mhm.
what you saw from them this season, what you want to see next season, especially with the two dynamic rookie all stars, Iriafin and Citron.
Oh, I mean, look, I've said it every time we talk Washington, and I'll say it again today. I am absurdly, absurdly high on the Mystics. I think they are the best positioned team long term in the WNBA. I think that their young core is unreal. To be able to say, "Yep, we've got Sonia Citron and Kiki Iriafen, who both played every game of the season. You have just tremendous, tremendous production from them. Really great chemistry with
Yeah,
them as well, which I said early in the season. I felt like a lot of that kind of comes down to often being like the second or third option on their college teams, where they certainly, I don't think, especially in retrospect, got the amount of recognition that they maybe could have had and deserved, because
yeah,
it's a star driven sport, and so there's not a lot of space for discussion of like full teams a lot of the time.
yeah,
And so it's just kind of a byproduct of the way things are covered. But they came onto the scene so prepared, exceeded anyone's wildest expectations. And
yeah,
then when not only those 2, but you're also factoring in Shakira Austin having one of the healthier seasons of her career so far, and showing really what she's capable of as far as that goes. And then you have, I mean, shoot, you have Lucy Olson who came in as a rookie as well and played in 41 games, and gave them pretty solid minutes. And so that's someone that you can have under contract for next year. You have Georgia Amore who got injured and then would be able to be signed or is still under contract for next year. So when you look around at a league where everything's up in the air,
Yeah.
they can secure a pretty good core, and that's without even getting into some of the other players who they certainly have the option to bring back as well and are very young. Emily Engstler, Aaliyah Edwards, Jade Melvin, like
Yeah.
they've got a lot of very young options, and I think that Coach Cindy Johnson is an amazing coach. I think what he did with them was just tremendous, and so I think that they have a lot to be really, really excited about. And if I'm a vet, that's a very, very tempting spot to be in. If I don't want to have to play 40 minutes a game, but I want to contribute and I want to be around some players who want to work.
That's right. Yeah.
I'd be looking real, real long and hard at Washington.
Same. Same. No, for real. Because, they have 3 first round draft picks next year. They have cap space and they have worker bees. All of them are worker bees. And even though there was a losing streak towards the end of the regular season there, didn't feel like it. They just had their exit meetings, was able to listen to Sydney Johnson dissecting how that felt, right? And sometimes when you're going through losing streaks, it can feel very heavy, and coming into practice can be kind of a doldrum kind of mood and vibe. But he said that wasn't even evident. They came in, they put their hard hats on, they worked hard every day. It didn't matter, right, that they were on a skid. They were fighting and getting 1% better every day. And that's all you can ask. Like, that's how you learn the most about yourself, right? When you're challenged. But it doesn't mean that you're defeated, right? There's winning and there's learning. And that's what I've said about this team all summer, that, they've learned so much, not only about the WNBA and the pace of play and the physicality and the speed, but also about themselves and how they compete with adverse situations like winning and losing. Like, we came so close to a lot of games that I think it was the Minnesota Lynx and Washington had the most comebacks in the league this year. So you're talking about the number 1 team in the league in the Minnesota Lynx, and then the youngest team in the league with the Washington Mystics, because they fight and they compete and they play with joy and they play with compassion. They have great teamwork and skill. So I'm excited as well to see what it looks like. But you're right. If I'm a vet, man, I'm definitely knocking on that door, picking up my phone and hitting my phone to call over there.
And speaking of vets, to briefly touch on our last non-playoff team.
Okay.
Can I just say, last night, sitting on my couch, I cheered so loud. This, like, genuinely, yes! When post-game, Tamika Foster Bresby asked what we all were wondering about Tina Charles, and she confirms, God willing, she's planning on playing next year. I sat there, I swear, a tear dropped down my face because I love Tina Charles. I have loved her play this season, and you could just tell she's got so much in the tank. You talk about someone who is so capable in so many ways, and look, I'm not saying, I'm just saying she didn't actually say she's gonna play in Connecticut next year.
She was gonna hoop. She didn't tell you where.
So,
No.
Washington?
I mean, hello.
Can you imagine?
The return of Too Cold Tina Charles. That's what I called her. TC Too Cold. That Fader is the Too Cold.
I'm just putting it out into the universe. If it happened, I would not be upset.
I would be upset. I mean, she's a toughie. I mean, she's a leader. And the way that she led that young team, that's why she got the Sportsmanship Award NBA this year because of that, right? She's on the court in games talking to the rookies, and they're like, I remember, I think it was Kiki Iriafen said, "Wait, is she trying to set me up, or is she actually like trying to help me, but she was actually trying to help. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
She
what
just
it's
knows
all.
that either way she can get it done. Like
That's right. That's right. And then everyone was jumping on her. I thought,
right after the game, yes.
yeah, it was super sweet, super sweet. But I know it's going to be a great playoff situation. We have the 3 games, and then the 5 games and the 7 games in the
Yeah.
final. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how teams come through that. And I know you have a class to teach, and I don't know how much time you have left, but I don't want
Yeah.
to start
No,
another
I got a
conversation.
little time. I got a little time.
Oh, we're good. Okay, just we can just scan through. I guess the first round really quickly on what you see as most intriguing in that first round of games coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, I think that I'm kind of in the same boat as a lot of people, which is that I think that the 1-8 game is probably
Okay.
the most, I'll say, sneaky interesting,
Okay.
just because we've all known for a good chunk of the season that the 4-5 game was going to be tough, 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 because there was those kind of 5 teams that separated themselves uh throughout the season, and it was not necessarily anticipated that New York would be the 5 in that group, but that's how it worked out. And so you knew that there was going to be someone sort of on the outside looking in as far as home court advantage goes. So
True.
Phoenix and New York is going to be crazy.
Mm.
That is established. Minnesota and Seattle, though, Seattle has had Minnesota's number, and Minnesota has just struggled to string it together down the stretch. And it's hard when you don't have anything you're playing for. Like when you lock up the 1 seed that early, it is tough, and you start resting people. But I do wonder what that might look like. I think that Minnesota needs to have a really solid outing in their last regular season game
Okay.
tonight against the Valkyries,
Yeah.
just to build up some of that confidence again.
Right.
And then for Seattle, I mean, look, you're just going out there and hooping, because you know that you are capable of so much more than you've shown down the stretch this season.
Mhm.
I mean, you you have Dom Malonga, who has come on so strong. You have Skylar Diggins, who lives for the big moments, lives for the underdog role, the villain role. Like, you think that she isn't wanting to go into Minnesota's house once again and take that over? Like, she's sitting there licking her chops.
And
So I definitely think that there's a lot of potential there. I think that if Minnesota can get back to kind of what they had earlier in the year, they're a
mhm.
juggernaut. But I have to see that come back first to believe it, and we'll see where we end up from there.
No, I feel that. What do you think Seattle poses as the biggest threat? And what I mean, they've had their number, but
Mhm.
why have they had Minnesota's number this year, do you think?
They can stick with them when they run. Minnesota's best when they're running in transition, when they're defending. And Seattle can do a lot of the same. Seattle is really, really great at securing steals and converting off of them. I also think that they have some of that height, some of that versatility that Minnesota has and really thrives with, but they have even more of the height where, they've got Ezzy, they've got Dom, and they're able to go inside out, and they can really stick with Minnesota's versatile bigs that can do the inside out thing as well. And so, where some teams really can dominate in the paint against Minnesota, they can do that,
Mhm.
and they do, but they are able to match up in such a similar way that on the defensive end, Minnesota doesn't then have the advantage where they can either stretch out the defense or attack it. They're able to just kind of stick with them. And that's without even getting into the fact that in the paint,
Mhm.
Neko Gumake, like, what do you do with her? And
Right.
so it very much like reminds me of DJ Carrington talking about Asia Wilson. Like, do not ask me. Like, I do not know. Like, Neko Gumake to me, especially when she's shooting the three like she has
I
been.
mean, buckets. She's been
Uh,
I mean, definitely all league. And had they not had kind of the roller coaster of a season, and especially in the second halves of games, like where they
mhm,
had the reins and then kind of let go of the rope a couple times, a couple games. But I think for Seattle, I mean, gosh, Nneka Ogwumike could be in the MVP conversations too. But the team was just so kind of up
Mhm.
and down.
Mhm.
She has been steady,
Yep.
right? So it makes it tough. But she's a conundrum. Like I don't know how you check her, especially like you said, with her ability to extend the floor has been bananas. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's going to be definitely a matchup to circle because of the things that you said in terms of the challenges that the Storm can present for the Lynx. But the Lynx haven't forgotten how they lost the last one and
Mm-mm.
doing the dance afterwards and all the things, man,
Lights a little bit of a fire. And I will also say that
from the dome.
Seattle has really struggled to finish games, but then when they needed to, boy, when they knew that this game is a win and in,
Yeah,
they got it done. And so that to me signals a pretty big shift for them to be able to finish that game.
yeah,
I think that that is really, really massive. And they've obviously got plenty to play for. They know that they can win in Minnesota. They know they can beat Minnesota. And so I think that that is, especially in an only 3-game series,
yeah,
anything can happen there.
yeah. And the stud buds are hooping. I mean, they're doing their thing. They're coming in for
They're
the
hooping, they're getting the sponsorships. I love tying the hair color to the
yeah,
ad.
yeah. I mean, you know what? They're on the cover of Vogue, right?
Uh,
Hello,
hello.
face cards.
Obsessed.
My name for them. I love it. No, but they are hooping though too, right? Oh,
Yes.
they're coming,
Natisha Heidemann,
killing.
my husband we were talking the other night. He's like, the way she's been playing, like, if Minnesota makes it to the finals, you could be looking at the finals MVP.
Right.
Like, I mean, the way she's been popping, like her percentage,
Yeah.
her points per game, and the assists, like she's doing it all. And not just because there was times where Court was struggling and she was really having to come in and kind of pick up some of that
Right.
slack. Court's
Mhm.
gotten back on track, and Natisha's still just leveling up. And so, man, if she continues that, and plus you've had Dejanay Carrington out for a hot second with that shoulder, I have to think that hopefully that's an abundance of caution where like it was bugging her a little bit. And so you
Yeah.
figure there's no reason to exacerbate it in the regular season.
Right.
So if that I think could be a really big factor as well to get her back in the mix and get a little bit of that depth back. And then
Yeah.
like let me just quickly just even say too, Maria Klunikova has leveled up. She looks like just a second Alana Smith coming in off the bench with some of those blocks.
A good call.
It oh my gosh, I hope that they get back to what they were capable of, and I do think
Right.
they will.
Right.
But Seattle has so much more than what they showed at times, and so I
Right.
just think it's going to be a thrilling series, especially for a 1-8.
Yeah, no, agreed, agreed, and I think that's gonna be such an intriguing matchup in so many different ways, like the game itself, but also the game within the game. Within the game, I think
Yep.
I'm here for it. I'm gonna have popcorn ready for that one because,
Hmm.
yeah, I love it. But that's how it should be, right? They're competitive, they're competitors, they're passionate. Show that and have
Hmm.
fun with that. That's how the game is supposed to be, and that's why we love it. That's why we love
Hmm.
watching. Any other matchups really quickly? I don't wanna get you over the time. I know I feel
No, no, you're good. I suppose I'm not going to do a match. I'm going to rewind really quick just to make sure that I hit on the Connecticut Sun slightly more than just saying that I want Tina Charles to
Oh, okay, yeah.
leave. And so I'll close out with saying that I think that as much as the Mystics have such a great young core and such great potential,
Yeah,
so do the Sun. I want to say Sanaya Rivers, like,
that's my
take
baby.
a bow. I was like
I love
in my feelings watching her talk about what her mom would have to say about this season. And I will, as much as we talk about the media and like being responsible with what you ask, I think that also giving players that opportunity to talk about things that are
that.
meaningful and not pushing it, not pressuring,
Oh,
but giving that opportunity to be honest and set them. I mean, you just saw like the joy and how proud she was of herself, how much she knew her mom would be and was proud of her. I thought that was really powerful. And just the way that this team from the start has embraced and supported her in
right.
an unbelievably
I know.
difficult situation. And then for them I don't know that I've ever seen as much of a fight from a team that had been eliminated from the playoffs for as long as they had down the stretch. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
they just kept pushing, and Layla Lacan is a revelation. Like I said a week or 2 ago, just think if she would have been there from the start, like, and not to do the whole like in retrospect thing, but you think about getting her integrated from the very beginning. Anissa Morrow continues to prove like you wanted to question what I was going to do at this level. Like she gives me very like Nafisa Collier potential because people forget Fee is very undersized.
yeah, yeah.
Like, they're not very different in size,
Right.
and Anissa has a nose for the ball, tenacity that is
Yeah,
unmatched, like,
yeah,
fully unmatched, and so, I think as she continues to figure out her spots and as everyone just gets more cohesive again, this is a team that
mm,
had a lot of different players coming in and out of the starting lineup, had some injuries. I think that their potential, especially between Layla Lacan, Sinai Rivers, and Anissa Morrow, they've got a lot to be really, really excited about. And so I'm very interested to see what kind of moves happen in
yeah,
the offseason. If you know, if they can go from Marina Mabry requesting a trade to deciding to resign potentially. I think that she was liking what was happening there. I think that they have again a very enticing group for veterans to play alongside. So
yeah.
that they and Washington, I think, have the most potential to make some really big noise in offseason signings.
Agreed, agreed. And just going to what you said about Sinai Rivers when they were here in DC competing, I was just compelled to go over and speak to her after the game. And, as a mom, that's how I approached her because I wanted to squeeze her, put my arms around her. And it was such a tight hug, Jamie. And there was so much love exchange in that moment because I think she needed that. I needed it too because my kids are off to college and whatnot, so it was kind of like this, it was great energy right there. And I did say to her that, her mom was super proud. And I said, I know you're playing with a lot of heaviness, but I tell you what, it's shining through. Her love for you right now is shining through and everything that you are doing on and off the court. I mean, she is a bright light. I mean, she
The
just
way
or
the way
about
that she, like, not only spoke about it, but also the sense of humor, like, in that last interview when she's talking about, "Yeah, I told mom I needed her on my shoulder. She took a little nap there at the midpoint." I'm sitting there like,
like what? I mean,
"What?" Oh,
she understand like to be able to continue to move through that, right?
yep.
And compete at such a high level. I mean, 100 blocks or something like that, like
Yeah,
for
I mean, she
off the chain. Like I'm super proud of her, and I told her that. I said I'm so proud of you, you know, and I'm speaking as a mom, to
yeah.
you. I just wanted you to know I see you. I had to tell her that,
Mhm,
and I had to love her up in that moment. And it was very brief, but it was very meaningful. So
mhm.
just a lot of love out to her going through grief and competing at such a high level. So many great things ahead for that young woman, and I can't wait to see what's on the horizon for her and Connecticut.
Mhm.
Lastly, I guess Atlanta. We
Yeah.
were talking about them just a little bit. I know we can be brief with it, but
Yes.
I mean, 30 wins for Carl Smesco in his first season
Yeah.
in Atlanta. I mean, hats off to him, and that's my guy. But I don't care if even if he was not my guy, like hats off to freaking Carl Smesco
Mhm.
because wow, you just stepped into that space, and not only that, but commanded that space and got your team to play under your philosophy, your tactical rules, your culture, and all the things.
Mhm.
And you've had players playing out of their minds, career numbers across the board. Nas Hillman up for sixth player of the year. You know, it's just a phenomenon. Ryan Howard missed like a month of time, didn't miss a beat, and just integrating everyone into what he wanted to do. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see what they do in the postseason because he was asked, "Well, what's your take in one word on what the season has been?" He was like, "Unfinished." I'm like, "Oh snap!" Like,
Nice.
like a little, I'm a little chill in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's coming in there with some force and intentionality on the mental side
Mhm.
of approaching the postseason. But what do you see for the Atlanta Dream in the play?
Oh, I mean, I've loved what they've been doing since game 1, since the preseason,
Yeah,
where I kept saying, I I see the potential, like, that's some great players on a roster. I wasn't sure how it would all flesh out,
right.
and I felt like that was answered very quickly. Like, a lot of my concerns were put to rest very quickly, where, you know, Coach Mesco wasn't just saying, "All right, we're going to do the exact same thing that I've always done. It's only high efficiency. It's flinging 80 threes a game." Like, no, they take a lot of threes. They take very good threes. They attack the rim. He has not told Ryan Howard you can't shoot the mid range. He has not told Alicia Gray you cannot shoot the mid range. Like, he's embraced who they are. It seems like they have really brought out the best of everyone. Something that I think gets mentioned on a lot of broadcasts and that I see talked about some that I haven't talked about a lot is Brittany Griner coming in off the bench. I feel like that was a massive, massive shift. Just such a big energy player to get off the bench. I felt like
Right.
it's balanced out their starting lineup and given a little bit of relief to if she's coming in for Bree Jones, then you still have a big. You also can do that kind of double big look. And it allows you to see, all right, how are we going to be running this? Like, who's going to be in the paint? Who's going to be shooting that kind of mid range? I felt like Brittany has played with such a lightness, such a joy, and worked so hard and had still that intensity about her. I've heard just the greatest things from everyone involved with the Dream organization, top to bottom, just really, really positive things going on there. And you can tell in the way that they play. They work really hard for each other. They work really hard for the coaching staff. And that can take you a really long way. And so I
Right.
think that they're a team that obviously has, I mean, I think one of the most complete rosters as well as solid bench depth in
Mhm.
the league. And so, I mean, you have an MVP candidate in Alicia Gray. You have Ryan Howard, who, as you said, missed some time, but has been tremendous. And then you have Jordan Canada coming back. You have this bench that out of necessity has really produced in getting, frankly, way more than I ever could have anticipated out of Maya Caldwell, Tahita Pow, Nia Coffey. You can throw Shatori Walker Kimbrough out there. She hasn't seen as many minutes as the rest, but you
Yeah,
know what she's capable of, especially on the defensive end. So I just think that if you're going up against a team like Atlanta in the postseason, they can play any style, they can
right.
do anything. And so that's a very scary proposition when you're in an extended series because they can switch it up from game to game more than anyone in the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially on the defensive end. I mean, I think that we've seen so many different defensive schemes from Atlanta too as the season has unfolded. But yeah, Alicia Gray definitely in the conversation for MVP. I mean, just like I said, like career numbers and career revelations for so many players across the board there. BG coming off the bench, like different role for her, but still being able to impact the game in a positive way on both sides. So I'm really excited to see what they look like in the postseason. I mean, it's going to be a gauntlet, and I know the
Mhm.
next time we meet up, we're going to be really in the thick of things in the playoff realm. But wow, is there anything else you want to add, like what you're up to, or anything like that before we pop
I
off?
mean, yeah, I suppose I'll say you can still find me on my social media. I post considerably less because the semester has started. So for I guess every episode is someone's first. So I'm getting my master's as well as teaching undergrads. And so doing a lot of the journalism thing right now for Iowa State. But you can find me online at jsteyz, JSTEYZ. I'm on there every once in a while, just throwing some thoughts out into the universe before I disappear for the next week to go grade papers as I'm teaching my students how to write leads. So I
Oh,
got to make sure I'm giving the feedback. But yeah, I'm on here once a week. I'm here weekly still.
no, I love it. And the Cyclones, they're doing their thing. Football, they're the 14th in the country right now. I'm
Hmm.
following them
Hmm.
a little bit. I
Oh
like them.
yeah, it's a good time to be back on campus. That's for sure.
I bet. I bet. Well, you can always find me on socials, Christy W. Scott 51 across all of them. So yeah, but it's all hoops all the time. And my shout out right now is just to be kind. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to do. Anyway, but that's why I wore that today.
I love it.
And that's my final shout out. But shout out to BMAC, our great producer, for putting this all together for us. And we appreciate you guys for checking in with our Her Hoop Stats podcast. I'm Christy Winter Scott for JSJ. We'll see you guys next time.